Have you ever thought to yourself, I wonder if there is a game where I can control a ninja and take on Spider-Man, Batman, the Terminator, John Rambo and Godzilla? Well, wonder no more, because there is. And that game is Revenge of Shinobi on the Sega MegaDrive. Revenge of Shinobi, or Super Shinobi as it was called in Japan, is a pseudo-sequel to Sega's 1987 arcade hit Shinobi. The terrorist organisation known as ZEED is not best pleased at Shinobi's interference with their plans for world domination, and so, to seek revenge, they sought out Shinobi's students and master and killed them. Oh, and kidnapped his girlfriend for good measure. It wouldn't be a beat 'em up without a kidnapped girlfriend plot now, would it? So, to take revenge for ZEED extracting their revenge, Shinobi heads out to once again stop ZEED. You can see a vicious circle forming here. Revenge is never a good thing. Unless it's delivered by Shinobi, on the Sega MegaDrive that is. The game follows the same type of action as the original Shinobi game. It's a single playing environment with Shinobi being able to jump up to the higher levels using a ninja jump. While doing the jump, he can also throw his shurikens. But be careful, as these are no longer an infinite supply, and to restock your levels, you need to open up crates along the way. And you can collect other bonuses along the way, such as hearts to restore life, because in this game you have a life bar, power-ups to make your shurikens glow like fire, and additional magic as well. This game does differ quite a lot from the original arcade game as well. In this one, there are no children to save, and why would there be, I suppose, as this game is based on Shinobi seeking revenge. The bonus stage is also missing. Again, this seems to keep the game plot in line with it being a little bit darker. The levels are varied, but nearly all of them require some sort of platform jumping action. Some levels even have you jumping back and forth between the background and the foreground, such as level 3 at the airbase. Being a ninja, Shinobi is obviously skilled in the art of ninjutsu, the art of invisibility. I mean, just look at this guy here. He has no idea Shinobi is standing right behind him. That's how stealthy he is. In fact, Shinobi's reputation precedes him in this game, as some of the enemies are so afraid of him, they simply shoot anywhere without seeing him. Probably in the hope that they score a lucky hit. Revenge of Shinobi was definitely one of those must-buy games for the Sega MegaDrive, and I remember the early screenshots I seen in magazines, all of which made the game look amazing. I would literally spend hour after hour each night looking at screenshots, reading the reviews of the imported game, the tips section. Basically, if I had even one screenshot of Revenge of Shinobi, I would be gazing into that screenshot. This was one of those early games that really made me want a Mega Drive in the first place. This and Golden Axe, of course. Revenge of Shinobi is not just one of the greatest games on the Mega Drive, it is also one of the greatest games ever made anywhere. It is that good. I will, however, need to be careful, as I could wax lyrical about this game for hours. It really is right up there with my all-time favourite games, but I will try and limit the time as best I can. So, what was it about Revenge of Shinobi that made it so good? Well, usually most reviews or nostalgic throwbacks will start with the amazing visuals. And yes, they are awesome, but I think a picture speaks 1,000 words, and so instead of prattling on about them, have a look and appreciate them for yourself. But I feel that the audio deserves a mention first, as it is amazing in this game. The soundtrack by Yuzo Koshiro is outstanding. It even gets its own credit at the start of the game. I can't remember seeing that all too often in games. For those that think what's the big deal, let's go back and look at this iconic title sequence. Still impressive to this day and gives me a nostalgic overload. It's amazing. Now let's watch it again, but without the music. See, it's just not as impressive and is far less impactful. The music for each stage is not unique, and a lot of tunes are recycled for different levels, but when they all sound this good, it doesn't matter. From the opening level providing an atmospheric soundtrack to the background settings, to the funky beats of the second stage of level 2, clearly in theme again with the backdrop of the back alleys of the city streets, and then there is the boss music. One of the all-time best boss themes ever to be heard in any game. And then we have the sound effects. The sounds of the shurikens hitting metal is so satisfying, giving off this slight high-pitched clink sound, like a sword strike hitting a knight's armour. The machine gun sounds too, with their ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta sound. It's all a pleasure for the ears. And then we have the iconic sounds when picking up items. This was recycled in several Sega games, and it just fits perfectly. The controls, as you would expect, are very precise. You have 3 buttons and each performs a different function. One for attack, one for jump, and one for magic. The magic is selected by pausing the game and selecting one of the 4 magics on offer. You have one magic that provides Shinobi with a temporary shield, another for increased jumping ability that does sound like it was sampled from Rolf Harris, whatever that was he was using, but let's not dwell on that. And you have 2 magics for attack. One shoots big columns of fire across the screen, and the other is like a ritual suicide that unleashes a huge wave of power that destroys most enemies, and then Shinobi regenerates with a full life bar. But be careful, it does cost you a life every time you use that one. Shinobi can do this sort of double roll jump to get to higher platforms, and to jump between background and foreground on some levels. This is really easy to pull off. You jump, and at the peak, hit jump again. Simple. From there, you can even launch an attack. So far, everything is great for Revenge of Shinobi, but now comes the best part, and that is the gameplay. You see, Revenge of Shinobi is not to be dismissed as just another platformer with small combat elements. To do that would be a tremendous disservice. No. Shinobi is an action game with platform elements, with the challenge coming from navigating the levels and dealing with the enemies that are out to stop you. And although sounding really basic, it's not. It does provide a massive challenge, with each level notching up the difficulty that little bit more. Speaking of enemies, there are a wide variety of enemies to deal with. You have your usual ninjas, of course. Then you have these soldiers who carry machine guns and grenades. These guys never move though, and so they are usually placed near a platform edge you have to get to. You also have John Rambo, who is armed with a flamethrower, and he requires a couple of hits to deal with. And then you get these nuns. And they just shuffle along and then whip off their habits. but instead of revealing their Hessian undergarments, they are in fact female ninjas in knee-high boots and short skirts. I never knew the clergy trained them to spread the word of God by using ninjutsu. It's a brave new world, that's for sure. Some levels have what appears to be kung fu fighters, guys with nunchucks and geishas with lightning quick kicks that seem to be a lot tougher compared to most other enemies encountered in the game. By the time you get to the later levels, all of these enemies appear all over the place, making progress that bit tougher. The level layouts themselves provide a challenge and are not just there merely to look good, even though they do look good. The waterfall in level 2-1 has this log jumping section. I always hated these kind of jumping sections in games. It was always rubbish at plotting the trajectory of your character, and would end up missing ledges, moving platforms, the whole lot. And this level in 6-2, where you start off on top of a train making its way somewhere, I suppose. Obviously, no need to worry about train strikes in Shinobi Land. Anyway, you have to dodge these steel beams while trying to fend off enemies. But probably the most frustrating of all the jumping levels is 7-1. The platforms are right on the edge of the limit of Shinobi's jumps. Coupled with the placement of some of the enemies, it can be very challenging. Well, so I thought anyway. If there is one complaint I have with Revenge of Shinobi, it's this. This maze level at 8-2 is just so annoying. I used to know how to get out this maze in like 60 seconds flat, but that was 30 years ago. And in this playthrough, I had to give up and use a cheat to get to the end boss. It's just so deeply frustrating. Probably the only level that requires any kind of memorisation. The bosses do not really mount much of a challenge in this game, and boss encounters become just a game of patience, hit and wait, really. But there are some surprises. The boss in level 2 always reminded me of the masked ninja of the original Shinobi. Then you have the Terminator at the end of level 4, Spider-Man and Batman at the end of level 6, and then this huge Godzilla at the end of level 7. The first time I seen this in magazines, I couldn't believe the size of the sprite. But when Godzilla moves, he doesn't move smoothly. I guess it really was hitting the limits of what was possible on the Mega Drive. The final boss encounter is a challenge, as it's a race against time to save your girlfriend and kill the boss before she gets squished by the big concrete block slowly falling down on her. Everything that has been mentioned, all of it contributed to one of the best games ever made. And it's really unusual as well, as Revenge of Shinobi was one of the early games in the Mega Drive's life, and so the bar was set really high. More often than not, a platform's greatest game will appear towards the end of its shelf life, but not here, and Revenge of Shinobi was a very tough act for Sega to follow on the Mega Drive. But games like this and Golden Axe really showed what the machine was capable of. And it also showed that Sega were great at making top quality arcade coin-ops and coin-op conversions. but that they could also make original titles. Games that were designed from the ground up exclusively for that platform. And I believe this is what helped shift the Mega Drive in huge numbers here in the UK. There really are not enough superlatives that can be used to describe Revenge of Shinobi. In my opinion, it is a game that still stands tall as being one of the greatest games ever made, and is truly worthy of being in every gamer's collection. Apologies for waffling on during this video, I did get a little carried away, but if you have made it this far, then thank you for watching to the very end. And there is nothing left for me to say other than please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching.